Welcome back. The late game last night, Cowboys hosting the Cardinals, and this was all Arizona from the word go. How about Ezekiel Elliott fumbling twice in the first half, paving the way for the Cardinals to go up 21-0 before the break? It's becoming an all too familiar narrative for the Cowboys, always playing catch-up. Andy Dalton threw 2 second-half interceptions, killed any chance of a comeback for the Cowboys. Dallas dropping to 2-4 now. Here's Zeke on what went wrong.
Honestly, I don't think it really was much of what they did. I think it was me. I'm supposed to be a guy this team can rely on. I'm supposed to be a guy that this team can lean on when times get rough, and I just wasn't that today. I got us started off to a terrible start. The defense they were playing well, but I killed our momentum. 2 fumbles. I can't do that. I can't.
Brian Westbrook back with us now. Brian, is it fair for Zeke to place all the blame on his shoulders after last night's loss?
Well, I wouldn't say all the blame, but I would say most of it, and I think he's absolutely right. He did kill the momentum early in the game, and this is what you have to believe about Zeke coming into the season. This is before Dak got injured. He has to be a top 3 running back for this team to be successful and make the playoff push, and obviously Nick thought they were going to the Super Bowl, which is obviously not going to happen this season. But he had to be a top 3 running back. And even now, we're talking about with missing Dak, the margin of error for this football team has decreased. You have Andy Dalton in there, and that defense has been absolutely terrible all season long. Now Zeke has to be the one that carry the load. He has to be the one that helps them win, not the reason why they're losing. And when you're turning the ball over at the rate that he's turning the ball over, 5 fumbles already this season, you're just not helping your team win. And in fact, you're actually better off the field because turnovers, it's better to punt than to have a turnover. It's better to not to have Zeke on the field at this point because he's turning the ball over than to have him on the field. And that's just hard to say because I think talent-wise, Zeke is one of the best backs in the NFL. At this point, he has to get back to fundamentals. Carrying the football, not worrying about the outside noise, not worrying about doing everything for this football team. Just carry the football well, be the guy that you've always been. And if he can do that, I think he can help this football team.
Yeah, it's absolutely Zeke's fault, 100%. When you're a superstar, you're held to a higher standard. You get paid the big bucks to be a part of the solution and not the problem. Ball security is job security, yours and mine. I'll continue to say that. I had this plastered all over my dormitory. I had this plastered all over my condo when I got to Denver. Had it plastered all over my home when I upgraded to a house when I got the big contract in Miami. And it never changes. If you lose the ball, you will lose your job, okay? I remember playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Denver. This was year 3, the 3rd game of the season. I catch a hitch. I made 2 guys miss. I'm running into the end zone. I dropped the ball. Fumble. It went through the back of the end zone, touchback. There was also guys who threw picks. There was plays where other guys fumbled, breakdowns in coverage. But at the end of the day, I knew because I was the star wide receiver, that game was on me. And I went back to that moment after the season when Coach Shanahan was fired. I said, man, we missed the playoffs by 1 game. If I would have scored that touchdown, we would have won and possibly went to the playoffs. So I love hearing this from Zeke because when you sit at that podium and you win a game, you deflect praise. When you lose a game, you take on all the blame. It just so happened to be that, you know, he played bad. He continues to play bad, put the ball on the ground. This is 5 fumbles throughout this season. The next closest running back when it comes to fumbles has 3. This is 2, excuse me. This is terrible. Zeke has to get this turned around.
Brian, I'm going to ask you a really basic question. Why do you fumble? Like, I get it when the ball's getting punched out, but is there any validity to the idea that Zeke was trying to do too much and that caused him to lose concentration? And Nick earlier in the show brought up, like, Tiki Barber was coughing the ball. Like, when you fumbled, or like, can you diagnose why he's fumbling? Because the second one really just feel like it popped out. And I'm viewing it as an easy fix. Hold on to the ball. There's no, like, you got the skill. It's not like you're not a good running back. Just hold on to the ball. It seems like easy to me, but maybe, you know more about the running back position than I do by a hair.
Well, first of all, Kevin, I wasn't a fumbler. I might have had 9 fumbles in my 9-year career. So I don't know necessarily about fumbling, but I do, and I have seen guys fumble. That point, Zeke doesn't have 2 hands on the ball. He's not taking care of the ball. You see right there, he has 1 hand on the ball. When you're in traffic, put 2 hands on the football. That's one of the keys. The other part is there is a lot of weight on Zeke to make all the plays. Of course, everybody has to step up when you're missing the player, when you're missing the type of guy that Dak is, the quarterback, the leader of that offense, leader of your team. There's going to be some more pressure on him. And I think when I went into that game yesterday, looking at Zeke, that he felt that pressure. He felt the need to make all the plays. And when you have to make all those plays, you start doing things that are uncharacteristic, putting the ball on the ground. I remember watching guys like Adrian Peterson, and we all know how great Adrian Peterson is, but he wanted to break every single tackle. And at sometimes he fumbled the football because he was doing too much, to your point, Kevin. And I think in this game, for example, Zeke was doing too much and not being more careful with the football. 2 hands on the ball is always going to be that rule. He didn't have 2 hands on the ball a couple times when he's fumbled this season.
All right, first of all, I would be remiss if I don't start here. I think Brian Westbrook just invented something. We've all heard about a humble brag. I think Brian Westbrook just invented the fumble brag. I think it's like, well, I don't know that much about fumbling because I did it like once a year. And one time it was in a rainstorm. Doesn't really count. Right. So kudos to Brian Westbrook for inventing something new, the fumble brag. That's first of all. Second of all is this. It's not all on Zeke. He's just part of the problem. This team stinks. And Brian's right. I did pick them to go to the Super Bowl. And, you know, this is something I have in common with my friend Stephen A. Smith. I have a little extra anger towards teams that make my predictions look bad. So I'm legitimately angry with the Dallas Cowboys because I look like an idiot. Because I thought this team with this roster, with or without Dak, could be a good football team. And they're not. They paid the wrong people. Amari Cooper, does he look like a $20 million a year receiver? Because that extension's kicking in. DeMarcus Lawrence, once again, got as many pressures last night as I did. He's about to be making 23, 25, 27 million the next 3 years. The guy on the defense they could have used was Byron Jones, but he plays for the Dolphins now because God forbid you actually address the secondary with the guy in-house. Jalen Smith, one of the highest paid inside linebackers ever, can't keep up with Kyler Murray. And you got Andy Dalton out there behind a beat-up offensive line saying, the hell am I supposed to do here? Here's what you're supposed to do. Lose, because the team's not any good. They have the worst defense in football. They don't respect ball security. They don't cause turnovers, and they turn the ball over a ton. There's 2 reasons that they make this television show. One is the jersey that they wear. They're the most popular team in America. The other is the division that they're in, which is it might as well be the Mountain West this year. That's it. Yeah. If they were in a real division, we couldn't even shoehorn them into the conversation. But because they're competing with Danny Drops, a rebuilding Washington team, and whatever the hell is left of Brian's Philadelphia Eagles, we're like, well, is 2-4 that bad? Yeah, it's that bad. You know who else has 2 wins? The Denver Broncos. How often are we talking about them? You know who else has 2 wins? The Detroit Lions. How often are we talking about them? And they've played less games than the Cowboys, so they actually have a better record. They're both 2-3. The team stinks. Zeke's contract's an albatross. The guy they should have paid plays in Miami, and the other guy they should have paid is on IR now. That's who they are.
Okay, but at the end of the day, they still play in the watered-down NFC East. They still have a remarkable chance to win the division because of that. Brandon, I'll ask you. You think Andy Dalton, Ezekiel Elliott, this group of guys can still win their division?
No, I know Nick just went on this whole tirade on why they're so terrible. But for me, it comes down to 2 things, and it's what we talked about week 1. Let's not overreact because it could just be a little blimp. It could be a little trend right now until they figure out who they are and their identity. They turned the ball over, and they also gave up the big play. They continue to do that. On offense, you can correct that. A lot of those things you can control. You can control making sure you throw the ball to the right person. at the right time. You can control putting two hands on the ball in traffic. On defense, you can't control having just no talent. You can't control that, and that's what they're showing. And you can't teach guys at this level to give effort. If you're not giving effort at this level, then you shouldn't be in the NFL. You should just be cut. So I think it comes down to those two things. I think the Philadelphia Eagles, they don't run away with the division, obviously, but they win it because when they go head-to-head, they haven't played each other yet. They win both of those games.
All right, so the Cowboys lose but still remain in first place in the NFC East. The Patriots lost. They dropped to third place in the AFC East. Unfamiliar territory for them. Should Pats fans be worried? We'll ask, we'll answer next. First things first.